Hey, welcome back to the Bums and the Bleachers podcast. It's been a while.
It has been a while. Been on a little. You've been on assignment more than
I have,
anything.
which obviously forced us a little bit into hiatus, but obviously good to be back. It's been about 5 weeks exactly. I actually had some work travel the last 5 weeks, but I'm home this week and I'm home next week, which I'm super excited about and get to watch maybe a little bit more Cubs baseball instead of just being on the road. But how's life, man? How are things with you?
Things are going well. Things are going pretty well. I think I maybe mentioned on the last episode, I've been on the road a little bit myself too. Knocked another ballpark off the list. Did not take my shirt off at that ballpark. I not the type of crowd for it, but went up to Minnesota for a game with my Uncle Paul. Enjoyed myself up there. And, other than that, pretty much same old, same old. Birthday coming up this week. I'm going to be 31. Excited for that. Going out with my family Wednesday night and having some fun with some friends in the days around then, and maybe see our friends, the Chicago Sports Bums, this weekend at their tailgate on the South Side. But how are things been with you, John?
Good, man. Good. Happy early birthday.
Thank you.
31. I mean, obviously I'll shoot you a text on Wednesday, but yeah, man, life's been it's been crazy. I've been, like I said, I've been traveling for work. I've been in and out. So I had a ton of trips lined up like over the last 5 weeks. I've been like everywhere. I've been Minneapolis, I've been Omaha, I've been Des Moines, I've been in St. Louis, I've been in Toronto.
There's a Johnny Cash song about you. You've been everywhere, man. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, even just out of the country too. So it's been it's been crazy. It's been a wild few weeks, but also I was just in Kentucky. I know we were kind of talking pre-show. I definitely wanted to shoot a quick highlight here. So you could see back here, I have a lovely lineup here. This is Larrikin Bourbon Company. They're based out of Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. So I actually last year I went to Kentucky Bourbon Fest, which I believe I highlighted on our show. This year I'll be going again. It's super fun festival. It is honestly, it's like one of the coolest bourbon festivals, I think, just in the country, period. If not the best. I mean, it's just so much fun. It's 3 days of getting to meet, the master blenders, master distillers, getting to try, a bunch of different bourbons, ryes, it's just a ton of fun. And you just get to hang out with a bunch of people that, like for me, it's like you get to hang out with a bunch of people that I know online that are also whiskey enthusiasts and get to experience, just being together, right? And just being able to enjoy whiskey. And we always say, whiskey is best when you're sharing it with friends. And, Kentucky Bourbon Fest is the best place to do that. So I'm super excited to do that. I was in Kentucky, like I said, at Larrikin. We were doing some barrel picks. So a group of me and some other people, obviously I was invited onto this pick. Got to go down to Kentucky, early in the morning. It was like 10:30 in the morning. We picked 2 barrels for the Kentucky Bourbon Fest. So they will be sold exclusively at the festival grounds. So, got to do them weeks in advance before the festival, make sure that you can try them out, let them sit a little bit more before they go into bottling. But we picked a bourbon, just a standard bourbon offering that they have, which was really, really solid. And my favorite of the two, which was a high wheat rye, it was a high rye wheated bourbon. Wait, no, now I'm getting confused which one it was.
Don't look for me for any help for this. You're the whiskey expert here, so
I know I'm drawing a blank here, but either way, it was either 65% wheat or 65% rye, and the other was either rye or wheat as the second grain. But it was one of my favorite pours from them the entire trip. It was so good. And then I was also able to pick up this one, which I was talking to you pre-show. This is the bourbon finished in rose water. Well, I don't even want to say finished. It's proofed with rose water. So when they proof down the bourbon, they do it with rose water instead of just
interesting.
So
is that like I don't know, is that water infused like rose petals or something, or is that
So I believe what they did was they put the rose water into the barrels, if I'm not mistaken, and then they use that they put the water into the barrels with the rose, and then they took the water out, and then when they proof the bourbon down, when they're basically unbarreling it, it's at barrel proof, and when they proof it down with the water, they use that specific water. So it's not actually finished like with that water; it's proofed down with that water. So it gives it like these really nice like floral notes. Obviously,
Okay.
it's super light. It's super easy to sip. I'm obviously, putting a dent in this bottle. I just cracked it yesterday, and I'm also really excited. I think it'll work really well in cocktails. So for the summer, but yeah, Larrikin's not in Illinois, but I don't know if I'm even supposed to be in it. I think they're working on it, so hopefully they're able
Soon.
to, they're able to come out to Illinois and have some distribution here. So
there we go,
great.
Miggy on the board.
Yeah. What do you get? Ooh, okay. Yeah.
Offense looked dead all game and finally got one. Sorry to interrupt your bourbon talk there.
That was worth it. 3-2. They got the lead. Amazing.
Yep.
But yeah, so obviously, like I said, just been traveling, doing the whole whiskey thing, work thing. But during this time, how about our boys, man?
Yeah. It's
having
amazing considering the crazy schedule they had in April, having to face, I mean, we covered the series against the Dodgers and the Padres in our last episode, but like didn't get a hell of a lot easier from there. Had some Phillies in there, had some Giants in there, had some Mets in there. And the Cubs held their ground, and they were able to make it out of the month of April over 500, still in first place, and now you get to like the part of the schedule that you look forward to the most, where like you just had a series against the White Sox at Wrigley, get the Marlins 2 out of 3, so this is kind of the time that Peter, thank you for joining, and do the Lou Piniella. Should I like kick my hat around or what does that mean? Anyways, but yeah, they were able to weather the storm through a tough April, early May schedule, and now like hopefully they can take off from here, because it was the last 2 years where May was a little bit of a speed bump for the Cubs, and 10-6 so far. Was looking a little rough to start this game, but hopefully they can hold on to win. Ben Brown seemed to have settled down since a shaky first, and Cubs finally got some runs on the board.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it. Like, obviously, our last show, we this was the moment when they were kind of going through the buzzsaw of the NL West, which is questionably the best division in baseball. You've got the Dodgers in there, you got the Padres, you've got the Diamondbacks, you've got the Giants. I mean, every team in that division looks like they can be playoff bound at this point in the season, right? And then, they went through the NL East, had a little bit of a tougher time with the Phillies and the Mets, and we'll see them again later this year. But I think to your point, yeah, they held their ground, and I think they stood tough against those teams. But this is the point in this, the schedule where like it's time to get fat. Like they hadn't had a sweep all year up until yesterday, which
no, there was one earlier against the Sacramento A's, or the Athletics, as you like to call them.
The Athletics. You're right. I'm sorry. That was so early in the year. I completely forgot about that already. So that was their what was that? Their second series of the year? No,
second series sweep or second. Well, second series after the Japan trip, because then the 2 in Japan against the Dodgers.
It was Arizona. Arizona.
Yep, 4 in Arizona.
Yep. And then the Athletics.
Yep.
Yeah,
and then they finally came home. Yep.
Only their second sweep of the year, so it's you hope you have a few more of those throughout the year, right? If you're going to be a 90 win, 90 plus win ball club, and playoff bound. Right. But they're winning series. I mean, that's the whole thing, right? Taking 2 out of 3 winning series. They've continued to do that for the most part, leading into the end of May. And like you said, you had Miami, you've got the White Sox, you had Miami again. You get to go to Cincinnati, where Ian Happ will hopefully return and has historically had really great numbers in Cincinnati in his hometown. Then you follow that up with the dumpster fire that is the Colorado Rockies. I mean, they are atrocious. I didn't think that.
I mean, talk about that for a second. Like, Cubs just got off, got done with a series against the White Sox, who, are pretty bad this year, not as bad as they were last year, but like set a very high bar for like ineptitude last season. And the Rockies may very well be even worse than them this year.
They may bulldoze them. They may bulldoze that record at this pace. And I think that's without them even trading off any pieces that they may or may not have, right? And, I know we could probably talk about it later, but Ryan McMahon is somebody on that list that they can trade that the Cubs may be interested in. But yeah, that's, and then you face Cincinnati again right after that. So the schedule, I think the rest of the year, the winning percentage was like 430 or something like that, or 440 the rest of the way. So it definitely, the hardest part of their schedule has been completed for what it seems right now, right? Like anything could change in the next couple months, but as it stands right now, that was a really that was a buzzsaw to start the year. So
yeah, it was. And you know what? It was rough on us too, just personally, like regardless of the fact of whether they won or lost. So much on the freaking West Coast, and then I mean, starting off with the 2 games in Japan at 5 a.m, and then all those West Coast games that don't start till like 8:40 or 9 o'clock, and like now
go until midnight.
Yeah, exactly. Go until midnight. Thankfully, don't have to deal with any of those until about mid-August when you go out to Colorado and play the Angels in Anaheim. But like, glad to see there's actually like some normalcy in like not just the opponents the Cubs are playing, but like the crazy times they got to play them at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, April was rough. May was starting to settle down a little bit, getting through the West Coast teams and, some of those East Coast teams too, like that obviously that helps, seeing some of those. We were getting some earlier games, but like today, I mean, it was a 5:40 start, which love that. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about this past series, right? Because I know it's been a while and it's going to be hard to go back and catch up completely. But how about as I like to call him, Pope Crow Armstrong?
Praise be.
Huge, yeah. Praise be to he. What a series! I mean, can this be the new White Sox killer? I mean, he had a killer series against the White Sox.
Yeah.
But
he had what was the stat that he had like as many RBI by himself as the Sox scored total runs in that series.
Mm-hmm.
Like he basically beat him by himself.
Unbelievable. And I mean, his ascension has been really, really fun to watch, and I think we talked about it. I think probably it's been so long, but I want to say maybe our last episode was when we were talking the contract, right? Like when they kind of offered him this contract.
Yes, good call.
Turned it down, bet on himself. And now, I mean, all for all intents and purposes, it looks like that was probably the right choice, right? For him is to hold off, bet on himself. And like, I mean, the dollar signs just keep going up at this rate. And again, I don't know if this is sustainable. There's going to be a cooling off period, but I would like to think that the sample size is big enough now to think that this may be who he really is. And I don't know if it necessarily will be the power numbers, like all the home runs and stuff. I think like that has just been a hot streak with the power. I don't know if he'll be able to sustain like a 30, home run plus year. I think for him personally, I see him in the 25 to 28 range. And this year he may hit 30 at this pace because he's just been, crushing the ball this last month and a half. But yeah, I think it's, it's interesting to watch his ascension. He started off really cold to start the year again, but I think when we saw the back half of last year coupled with the start of this year, and you're looking, through that lens, it's almost a whole season worth of data at this point. And it's been pretty consistent who he is.
Yeah, no, definitely. You make a good point with the power. Like he's gotten off to a crazy start home run wise. And he's around 12. What does he have? 12 home runs right now. I probably would have pegged him to hit maybe about like 17 or 18 home runs in a full season. Right. Top out at that. But
and you would have been happy.
Oh yeah, definitely would have been happy. The thing about him too is that he's one of those guys that because of how fast he is, it will reflect better in his in his on base percentage and slugging percentage, because a lot of the balls that for damn near anyone else that are doubles are going to be triples for him. There are going to be a decent amount of balls that are singles for anyone else that are going to be doubles for him. And he'll beat out a lot of infield hits as well too. So he's been amazing to start so far. He's been like a spark plug at both down in the order and even in this recent stretch with Ian Happ being out at the top of the order. Like, you'd probably want him to take a few more walks than he's been taking. Like, I think since becoming a leadoff hitter has maybe only taken like one or two. You do have to You do have to factor in that he's got Kyle Tucker hitting behind him. So teams are probably going to be throwing him a lot of strikes and not wanting to deal with him being on base with Kyle Tucker at the plate. But this is the guy that, like, I think everyone was hoping and praying for when he got off to like the 0 for 20 start he did when he first got called up in 2023, And by the way, he's probably provided maybe my favorite moment of this entire season. Do you remember a few weeks ago when the Dodgers were in town and there was that walk-off that I think it was Michael Bush had the walk-off hit to score Vidal Brujan, and out on the frame of the shot of them all celebrating, like, he's already on the field as Vidal Brujan is crossing home plate. And it's like, Pete, I hope you're not going to get like hit with a too many men penalty like in hockey or something for that, because but I love the energy he brings. Definitely.
Yeah. And so here's the question I wanted to ask you. I wanted to pick your brain, because I've gone back and forth with this personally as well, because and we're definitely going to talk about the lineup construction when Ian Happ comes back. My concern was like him moving up, like Craig moving him up to lead off, where I was like, man, he was having such a solid start to the year, batting 7th. I was so concerned about moving up in the lineup that it's like, I don't want to mess with the good thing, right? Like, let's not mess with the kid. He's hitting really well right now in the 7th. He even talked about liking hitting in the 7th hole because he feels, he felt that he was kind of going underneath the radar with, the group of great hitters in front of him. So my thing is, like, whether he's a leadoff guy or not, like, that's the one part of the game that I agree that I feel like he needs to get better at the walks.
Right.
But also, do you think that like maybe he's not walking as much because he's been, to your point, he's been getting thrown more strikes because of Kyle Tucker behind him currently right now.
Right.
2, he has hit the first pitch at like a 600 rate or something like that, right?
They were talking about it on the score earlier today. He has on the first pitch of his at bats, if he makes contact and it's fair, he's got like a 500 average on it. He's basically become like, early in his Cubs career, Alfonso Soriano, when he was leading off at this point on first pitches.
Right. And then the other side of that too is like, if you're a pitcher, it's like you would like, are you really going to throw a lot of pitches outside the zone, potentially walk the guy? Because if you do, it's basically like an automatic double at this point, right? Because of the speed, right? Like you just said it, once he gets on base, he's a threat to steal every single time. And so if you're giving him a free bag, that's essentially a double, a walk becomes a double at that point. So I'm wondering if he's just getting more pitches in the zone because there's that fear of putting him on base, and maybe they're just taking the chance of him putting the ball in play and, just taking their chances with that. But I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, because I do think that he needs to get on base more. I mean, the walks definitely, I feel like they have to get better. His on base, I think, is what, like 320 something right now.
I think he came into play like 325 tonight, and he was hitting for a pretty good average. He was about like a 290. You would like it to be a little bit bigger of a gap between on base and batting average for an everyday leadoff man like that. But like we both made the point, he's probably seeing a lot more strikes. The one thing I guess I worry about with him is that, there was a couple weeks ago, there was a home run he hit in Milwaukee on a pitch that was like damn near in the dirt. And I got a little bit worried. Like, obviously it's a cool moment to see it, everything, but I got worried that like he was going to start chasing a lot more after that. And He does have a little bit of a tendency to swing on pitches out of the zone too, which, you know, interesting to watch as the year goes on. But like, I don't know that he's getting pitched out of the zone as much as like it would warrant him, you know, maybe taking until he gets a strike or something like that. Because more often, like, you know, like we've said, that first pitch to him is more often than not a strike.
Well, he's also, I think they said he's leading the league in swing rate.
That like sounds right. Yeah, I looked it up on Fangraphs a couple of days ago. He's like 1 or 2 in swing rate.
Yeah, which essentially means he's swinging a lot every at bat. I mean, I think it was like 24% or something like that. Like 24% of the pitches he sees, he's swinging. It'll be interesting to see how pitchers address that, and you know how they're going to, try to get around that. But the one thing I've noticed from him too, and again, is this part of the hot streak or is this who he is as a hitter? He has made solid contact with a lot of like pitches that have not been in the zone. Like there was a home run that he had hit, I think it was a couple weeks back, that was so far out of the zone, and he was able to golf it, get down under it, and park it into left field bleacher. So it's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see for him, like how is he going to be able to maintain this? Is this who he is? I mean, is he going to be able to be a high contact guy? Because I mean, Nico Horner, similar, maybe, well, not to this degree, because Nico doesn't strike out, but Nico doesn't really draw a lot of walks either.
No,
he gets on base because he puts the ball in play.
Exactly.
Which no one's knocking him for not drawing a lot of walks, but.
No, I would say like probably want a little bit more power out of Nico Horner. At this point, he still is yet to hit a home run, but I think that like for what he's doing at the plate, like he's still hitting for a pretty good average, and he's still getting on base at a decent clip. Like, I got really no complaints about what Nico Horner is doing when he's, at this point of his Cubs career is, probably one of the last guys you think about when it comes to guys in the lineup. And that's not a knock on Nico. That's just, to say like there have been a lot of improvements ever since he has become a regular with the Cubs.
Yeah, so I wanted to throw up the stats here because it's pretty phenomenal to see what this guy's doing. He's got a baseball WAR of 3.1 already this year.
Yeah.
Batting 290. He's got 12 home runs, which just blows my mind. I think he's only been caught stealing 3 times so far this year.
Yeah, 14-3. Yep.
Yeah, 3 times. So 14 out of 17. Pretty great clip there. I mean, he's already got half of what he stole last year. A month and a half in, 2 months. Well, 2 months in essentially at this point. But and the defense has been there obviously too. I mean, I want to say that I believe that he might be leading the league for center fielders for defensive runs saved, if not all outfielders.
Sounds right. They did have a stat they flashed up on the broadcast yesterday of what is it? Since 1901, he is the first player to have 12 home runs, 11 doubles, 2 triples, 14 stolen bases through the first 46 games of the season since 1901. Yeah, it's crazy.
Well, and I mean, also,
go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say too, like look at the Fangraphs leaderboard. I want to say like the only player in all of Major League Baseball with a higher WAR than him right now is Aaron Judge, who pretty good company to be in with Aaron Judge right there.
Yeah. And it comes at a great time. Ian Happ obviously went down and was having a pretty solid start to the year in terms of on base percentage leading off, getting the Cubs offense going, pretty consistently in that lineup. But did they just score?
They did. It was like a foot away from being a home run. It's an RBI triple now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just saw it. Yep. So, it's it came at a good time, like I said, because you had Ian Happ who went down with injury, and he was having a really solid start to the year leading off, and then
Yeah.
you've got Kyle Tucker kind of going the opposite way here, and obviously right on cue as we switch topics here, cooling off at the plate, and also just defensively, I don't know, it could be him still learning Wrigley Field. I think that right field is definitely hard
Right.
to learn, but he hasn't really maybe it's just the eye test for me. He hasn't looked that comfortable playing
He
right field, but
he did make one really nice catch this past weekend against the White Sox on the Friday, I think, and it saved a couple of runs too, because it like ended the inning with multiple guys on base. There have been a few moments for him where he's like, there was that sequence in the games in San Diego where like there were the 2 drop foul pop-ups. There were a couple times where like he went over to the area where the bullpen used to be in right field and like didn't maybe have the best effort on a catch attempt. I mean, I hope that it's just, him kind of getting used to Wrigley. He does have a pretty good track record. He won a Gold Glove in Houston as well too. I do also wonder too, missed a lot of time last year with an injury and maybe is not trying to go as hard as possible if he can prevent an injury, because, that could play a huge role in this upcoming offseason for him, due to make a lot of money. And, that's your best stability is your availability, as they say.
it's true. I want to throw this up here. So the last 7 games, he's been batting 200 with a on base of 310. Last 15 games, so about 2 weeks worth, still hitting about 200 with 313 on base. And the last 30 games hitting 219 with 323. And obviously the slug you could see has gone down significantly as well off, after his really hot start.
If while you're on his page, click on his splits too, because I want to say he's been like a much better hitter away from on the road than he has been at Wrigley.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. So 7 home runs in 22 games as opposed to 3 in 25 at Wrigley.
It seems to be the case with a lot of the lefties too. I mean, even Michael Busch. I mean, I don't know if you saw earlier in the game, they show the splits with Michael Busch, home and away, and his numbers on the road are obviously significantly better too. So,
right. Well, he's still come up with his fair share of big hits here and there. Like he had what wound up being like the game-winning hit last Monday night against the Marlins. He had a big home run against Paul Skeens in Pittsburgh as the Marlins take the lead right there on a single. God damn it. Whatever. It's still early enough in this game where they can come back, and Marlins bullpen is just as shaky as the Cubs is. And we'll get to that later. But yeah, I mean, I don't really know. Like, that's the thing. Like, other than like Rizzo in recent years, there haven't been a lot of like really big lefty performances by Cubs hitters. You had one All-Star year with Ian Happ, but it is a hard park for lefties to hit in. Like, you see a lot more home runs hit out to Waveland Avenue than you do to Sheffield Avenue.
Yeah, 100%.
But we also
like Schwarber maybe.
Schwarber, exactly. We got a lot of time left in the season, and it has cooled down a little bit weather-wise here in Chicago. And the one nice thing is he's like Hendricks and he is pretty stone-faced now that I think about it. Like, you don't see him like really show much emotion out there.
Very stoic.
Good poker face by Kyle Tucker. Peter, yes, I'll admit he was struggling, although he did have some big hits in the middle of all his struggles as well too. I mean, as the year goes on, I think Tucker will pick it up. I mean, it was right around this time in Chris Bryant's MVP year that I think like he was not really hitting all that well either. And I mean, different
Mhm.
scenario. It's a righty hitter as opposed to a lefty hitter, but just because you take a little bit of a dip in May doesn't mean that you're screwed for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, it's perfect. It works out well. I mean, you're always going to have guys that are going to have those highs and lows throughout the year, and other guys are going to have to pick it up. Right now, it's Pete Crow. He's the guy
Right.
who's picking up right now, and I have full confidence as the weather starts to warm up a little bit. I think when the wind starts to blow out in Wrigley a little bit more, or the air gets, in a place, in the summer where the ball starts to carry a little bit more, I think Tucker will be okay. Also, we've seen the resurgence of Dansby Swanson. Who,
Yes.
I always, I equate it to a roller coaster, right? I think with him, he's so up and down, right? He is probably, I would say, the Cubs' streakiest hitter. Where I mean, he feels like he goes the longest into lulls, and then can have like these really long hot streaks too. So, I wanted to put up his numbers here. Throw it up here.
Let's see.
So you've got over the last 7 games hitting 304, 393 on base, 565 slug. His last 15 games hitting 347. He's got 4 home runs in 15 games.
Yeah, that period of time is like what I kind of want to focus on, because like it feels like it's been around that amount of games that Craig dropped him in the order. Like it was that series in Pittsburgh when he finally went down to hitting, I think initially 8th, maybe a little bit 7th here and there. And he's kind of taken off ever since then. I think for him, like less is more. Is the saying you could say, is that like, the less that you're expecting of him, the more that he winds up producing. I guess that, the one encouraging thing about when he was struggling is that like he wasn't really someone who like took his struggles at the plate out to the field with him. He's still the same really good fielder that he had always been. And like see right here, he's been okay. He's actually been better at home than he's been on the road, which is surprising. I feel like his big moments have been more so on the road, because I remember there in that same game where Tucker went deep against Skeens, he also went deep against Skeens too.
He did, yeah.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it stays going for Dansby. If anything, he may be the streakiest player. He's also, the most reliable player as far as like availability and defensive ability. So, someone you do still want in there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So Happ, when Happ comes back, it is going to be
a log.
I think we're going to have a lot to talk about when the lineup gets reconstructed, right? Like, does PCA move back to 7th? Does it keep him at the top? And if that's the case, where are you putting Happ? Are you putting Happ at 2nd and then moving everybody down accordingly? I personally would drop PCA back to 7th.
Okay.
Even though he has been hot, because I think it lengthens your lineup a little bit more, where you're going to get a lot more production towards the bottom, especially the way that the catchers have been hitting to start the year with Carson Kelly and Amaya. And hopefully you've got Matt Shaw, who's back up again. Hopefully we never see Justin Turner in the lineup again, let alone batting 5th. And I think that's been probably the most frustrating thing for me, is watching Justin Turner. Not only is he in the lineup, but they've been batting him like 5th.
Yes, that's been by far the thing that has annoyed me the most that Craig's been doing this year, is like, I get it. There's going to be some games you maybe don't want Michael Busch to face a lefty. I don't agree with that. I think you should have him in there for every game possible, because if he's going to be your everyday first baseman going forward, you want him to get those at bats against lefties. But if you really think that Justin Turner gives you a better option to face the lefties, fine. Why doesn't he doesn't? But I'm just saying, why does he have to hit 5th? Like, he should not be hitting any higher than 7th in the games that he starts. I
This
completely
is
agree with that.
he is the Patrick Wisdom to David Ross. You know what I mean?
Okay,
like this is,
yeah, I can
this
see
was
that.
this was Patrick Wisdom 2 years ago when we were asking why is Patrick Wisdom in the lineup most days, and why is he towards the middle of the lineup? You know, it's like I
Right.
know he had the home run power. I totally get it. I understand the power, behind, that's there, but Jesus, man, like, again, Ben
Yeah.
Brown is just
Yeah, he's
rough,
getting lit
man.
up bad. This is we'll talk about it later in the show when it comes to topics on, what the
Yeah.
pitching
And
outlook is going to be. I don't think. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying we were talking about the lineup yesterday too, and obviously the curveball that got thrown into here is that Matt Shaw got recalled today. Right. And we talked about who would be DFA'd or sent down. You said it would be Nicky Lopez. I said at the beginning of the year, I don't know if you recall, but my prediction is that Justin Turner would be DFA'd by June. It's still not June yet, but
not June yet. And I do wonder now that Shaw is back up if they, you did mention that like Turner is mostly there for just kind of leadership, and if just having his presence there would be a help to Shaw.
I don't know how. I just like at this point, like defensively, there was
maybe.
when he played first base, he was a liability. He doesn't play a lot at third base anymore either. And that, that's a spot that they really need to figure out, and I think I'm hoping that now that they call Matt Shaw up, that this is it. Like Matt Shaw's here for the rest of the year. They're not sending him up and down like they did Ian Happ early on, which I think, really kind of messed with Ian a bit. I
hate that. No, who is pitching for the Brewers, Ryan? I don't know. I don't know. Or I thought it was like Quinn Priester tonight, but I wasn't sure. At any rate, Justin Turner, like at this point, he did have a nice walk off against the Marlins last week, and actually like does have pretty good numbers with runners in scoring position this year. That would be the only. My guy Rob Zastryzny from the 2016 team. There we go.
Oh okay. Yeah, he was the opener.
Yes, he was the opener. That's right. I guess is for strictly like on the field baseball reasons, if you're keeping him around and it's like a late inning situation where there's runners on, fine. You want to keep him for that, go ahead, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Don't want to see him hit fifth ever again. But back to the lineup as a whole.
Yep.
You say you want to see PCA lower in the lineup. I think I want to stick with PCA leading off. Okay. I either that or you lead off with Tucker and have PCA hit ninth. I want to see them both hitting back-to-back in the lineup because I want to see this trend continue of teams being forced to have to pitch to PCA. I feel like he's excelling since, that has been the case. And for what it's worth, too, if you look at Ian Happ's career splits, obviously you never want to see him hitting third. You never want to see him hitting fourth. No. But his highest career OPS by spot in the lineup, most people might think it's leadoff. It's actually fifth. So, and okay. if you look at what he did last year by his splits in the lineup as well, too, he had more home runs batting fifth than he did leading off. He had 11 in the fifth spot, 9 as the leadoff man. And a few more sprinkled around other areas as well. But I think that, that could also keep the the flow of the lineup as Craig would like to have it, as you have it where it's Tucker bats lefty, then you have Suzuki after him. And then you could potentially have, well, now that I think about it, I'm okay. This maybe wouldn't keep it the same because then it would be Suzuki would hit third. Then it would be, I don't know who would hit fourth, probably Bush. But then Happ most days would be hitting lefty. you could hit then a righty after him, I suppose, maybe either Dansby or, if Matt Shaw heats up. I do wonder, like, would they, like, Ian Happ did get off to a pretty good start when he was leading off this season before he got hurt. There we go. Thielbar got him picked off. All right, there we go. Got out of trouble for this inning. But as this, I feel like this hot streak with PCA, like, I would like to see them stick with it until he proves that he can't hit there anymore. And, the evidence of Happ actually being better in a better spot, being better in another spot, I should say.
Okay.
I think that goes to show that they should stick with PCA leading off.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could buy what you're selling. I mean, having Happ bat fifth, if you're saying he's got a better on base, batting fifth, my only thing would be, like, in that spot, like, I want somebody who could be a run producer, and I think, like, for Happ, like, that's where it's like we've seen some, inconsistencies, I think, with him that, I don't know.
Sure.
I don't know if it's the most advantageous spot for him. Because I do like him. I actually do like him as leadoff guy. I like that he gets on base a lot, and I think, like, he works a good count to start off the game. He gives every guy after him, a good view of what the guy is starting off with, right? So I think, like, he sees a lot of pitches early on. He works a count. He forces pitchers to, throw in the zone. Which is where I think long term, I just don't see PCA as somebody who is, at least not right now in his career. I mean, he's obviously only 23, but I think right now in his career, I just don't see him as a guy that's going to work a count deep, and I think he's going to have a little bit of that hobby in him where he's going to be just free swinging and feeling like he could hit a lot of those pitches outside of the zone because he could hit some of them. So
right.
That's my only resistance about keeping PC. I think it's been really nice right now. But I think, like I said, I liked how it lengthened the lineup by moving him down, where you've got a little bit more power, a little bit more speed at the bottom, that you're almost having like a second leadoff guy with, the three hitters in the back end of the lineup. So I don't know. I kind of like him for that, but I get what you're saying, and I can buy what you're selling. I'm not totally against it.
I mean, I think initially it probably will go back to being Happ leading off, and then the only thing I worry about hitting PCA seventh, and this doesn't really have much to do with him, is just, like, I hope that doesn't force Dansby back up to a higher spot in the lineup where he had been struggling earlier this year. But, that's not PCA's problem to worry about. That's
I think I would probably like to see PCA 7, Dansby 8th, catcher 9th.
That works. Well, maybe not if a certain catcher 9th. Carson Kelly has been hitting really damn well.
He has, but I think he's cooled off a bit too.
True.
He's no longer batting 400. He's come back down to earth. And he's good for a catcher, but I think, like, again, it's not, even if you move that catcher spot down to 9th, it's not an automatic out this year.
Right.
So
that's true. Yeah, that's true. And it's been true even, we saw earlier in this game, Miguel Amaya went deep. He's been hitting very well as well too.
And a nice spot. So
yeah.
All right. Cade Horton obviously made his debut while we were on hiatus. We saw 1.5 starts really, because I mean they had an opener in his very first major league game with Brad Keller starting out the game and then transitioning over to Horton in the second inning. He went a few innings, pitched really, really solid. Nothing, I don't think he was overly spectacular, but really solid, I thought.
For sure.
He looked pretty good in his first. I mean, again, you're in New York. It's loud.
Yeah.
Those fans.
It's a really good Mets team too. Yeah.
Really good lineup, with Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor,
Juan Soto.
Mark Vientos, Juan Soto. You've got, that lineup is stacked with some hitters. So I thought he did pretty well. Got the win in his first major league game, had his family out there. And then his second, he had I don't know if it was a quality start, because I think he might have only went 5 innings.
Yeah, he went 5 innings. The thing with him in his second start is that he did give up a home run early to Miguel Vargas, and if he had stayed in there for the 6th inning, Miguel Vargas would have been the first batter he was going to face in the 6th. So I think Craig just wanted to get him out, without having to worry about facing him or anything. Had it been anywhere else in the Sox lineup, I think he probably starts the sixth inning of that game. But, going back to his New York, I guess, relief appearance, but, in a sense, it was the start. He pitched the most inning of any Cubs pitcher that day.
Right.
He wound up getting the win. He really only made one bad pitch on that home run to Brett Beatty. The really encouraging thing for me, has not walked a hitter yet. I mean, the stuff looked really good. He didn't really seem to have much of a problem when facing the big guys on the Mets. I think he had Lindor, he struck him out Lindor struck out the first time against Keller, but I want to say he held him hitless in the two times that he faced him after that. So good stuff from Cade. As far as if he's here to stay, it may more so be out of necessity than anything that he's here to stay at this point. Because, we saw Ben Brown struggling tonight. There's some limitations to this rotation, and that, I think, especially right now with Shota out, we got the news today too, by the way, that Shota is going to be out a little bit longer than expected. Sometime in June is when he's slated to return. Sure. I think at the end of the day, even when Shota does return, that Cade is still one of the best 5 starting options for the Cubs. And it does provide a little bit of extra help that you could take a Ben Brown or possibly a Colin Ray and put them down in the bullpen in roles where they may be better suited, because those are 2 guys that don't particularly go all that long into games, but for the first few innings of the games they pitch in, do look pretty damn good. They don't give up a lot of damage very early in games. So, that's go ahead.
I mentioned to you, I think the reason why they feel like they can take their time with Shota is because this rotation has been as solid as it's been. I mean, you mentioned Cade Horton not having a walk. I want to say over the last 4 or 5 starts, Colin Ray was the only starter to have a walk in any game that was pitched during that streak. So you're having some really solid production from your rotation, especially with guys that I didn't think that we would be here counting on, Matthew Boyd. There you go, Nico.
Yep.
Matthew Boyd, Colin Ray. Ben Brown has been rough, but I think that's going to be the candidate that probably moves to the bullpen. And I think his stuff probably right now at this point in his career plays better in the bullpen.
Are you saying Brown would be the?
Yeah, I think so. I think Ben Brown needs to move into the bullpen. And I think he's I think his last start, he was averaging 96 miles an hour from his fastball, right? He's a 2-pitch pitcher at this point in his career, and I think they said in this broadcast, he had only thrown his changeup, which is his 3rd sometimes pitch.
Right. Exactly.
He threw it 17 times this whole year. So when you've got a guy that primarily throws 2 pitches, and regardless of how lively his fastball is, and I think the thing with Ben Brown that we see is the control issues, right? If he can't control his fastball, he doesn't have much else to lean on to, and then you got guys sitting back on a curve that, if he hangs in the zone, they're going yard, right? Or if he gets into 3-0 counts like he did earlier in the game, or a 3-1 count, he's throwing fastball right down the middle. They're meatballs, right? So these guys can time it up. So because you're at this point, it's 50-50, right? You're guessing it's either fastball or it's curveball on a 3-0 count, 3-run count. It's a fastball and it's got to be somewhere in the zone. So you're going to take your chances and just hack away. So I think his stuff plays better in the bullpen at this point in his career. Now, if you tell me next year he develops a 3rd pitch, he develops a slider or a couple different versions of a changeup or something like that, or a sinker, I think at that point, I'm saying, that might be a guy that's got a really high ceiling and upside for starter, because he was the guy I was the most high on coming as a starter.
You were talking about him as a future ace on previous podcasts.
Yeah.
There we go, Mo Baller. All right.
And I still think that he can do that. I'm on delay, so I just
sorry to spoil it for you. My bad.
Infield single from Tubs.
Yeah.
There we go. The everyman. The everyman.
Yep.
you know what I'm saying? It's like I think his stuff has the highest upside to be an ace, but
Right.
he's just not there yet because he only has 2 pitchers. So I think if you're using him in the back end of the bullpen, 7th, 8th inning guy, even high leverage, and you need a strikeout, that's the guy who could throw 100. So
I gotcha.
and I think in a shorter, inning.
If you want to take a pause for a second, something big is about to happen here.
Uh-oh. What's going on?
You'll see it. There's a line drive that Amaya is going to hit, and it's going to get past an outfielder.
Uh-oh. There we go.
And the Cubs now have the lead.
Oh, wow. Yep. That's a gamble.
Beautiful.
That triple?
Yeah. 3-run triple.
Yep. Safe.
Yep.
This team don't quit, man. They could come back.
Beautiful.
Respect 90. Absolutely.
Respect 90. Yep. Shout out Joe Madden.
Yeah. So from the bullpen, I think that also strengthens your bullpen where you've got another guy that can throw gas at the end because, we've got it here. Is the bullpen peaking or are they a mirage, right? I think the last 6 games they've had a sub-2 ERA. And I've liked how the bullpen has been constructed a little bit differently over the last couple of games where they've removed Presley from that closer role. And you've got guys like Brad Keller and Palencia, who's been a very pleasant surprise, especially over the last couple of years where he's really struggled. And maybe sometimes guys like that it clicks at some point, right? Maybe he's a guy that fills your back end, and Porter Hodge, who throws gas. So I've liked having those 3 guys on the back end because me, I've said it all year. I've said it all last year. I've said it the year before. I want guys that throw gas.
Strike out. Yep.
I want guys that throw gas, right? Because that's exact. Like Ryan Presley proved my point exactly to why I don't love guys like that in the back end of the bullpen. Like legitimately made me look like a genius for saying what I said, right? Which I feel is so simplistic, but guys that are going to put the ball in play, guess what? The ball's in play. What happens when the ball's in play? It either you get the out or it could be a hit, right?
It's a
guys
coin
that
flip
strike
at that
out,
point. Right.
Guys that strike guys out, that ball ain't going nowhere but the back end of the glove. That's it, right? That's where it dies. So
right.
Was he safe or
it
looks like they're challenging.
Yeah, they challenged it. The play at the plate, they overturned it. So
shit.
Only a tie game now, but
But you got a guy in there with 1 no outs.
Yeah, we'll take that. That's hopefully they can bring him in. It looked to me like I think it looked
like they didn't have enough.
It was either Bush or was it Ballesteros?
Ballesteros.
Ballesteros was on first. He his leg kind of came up as he was about to touch home plate, and I think they tagged him when that happened before he could get in there. So whatever. Back in this game, looking good. Yeah, I mean, bullpen has been a lot better of late, I think. And you and I had a very long conversation on the night that Ryan Presley, got lit up by the Giants about whether to stick with him at closer or not. I think it's pretty apparent at this point that they're not going to stick with him.
Nope.
And he's still been a fairly effective reliever ever since then. Did have a nice escape job in the Marlins series on the night they walked them off. Yeah. Got out of a jam against the White Sox.
You got 3-run lead?
Yeah.
I'm fine.
For sure. I just wonder what the internal option is for closer at this point right now. I think the best option, if I had to go gun to my head, I would say would be Daniel Palencia. I mean, he's pitched brilliantly and has actually generated some swings and misses on his 100-mile-an-hour fastball, which wasn't always the case, in his previous years in the big leagues. But he's looked fantastic. And you got some. Thank you for joining, Baloney. You'll have to rewind this. Sorry. But he's Palencia has looked fantastic. Guys are actually chasing on his stuff out of the zone now. He's learning to kind of mix it up a little bit. Hodge, that's the guy you wanted as closer. He's had his fair share of struggles here and there. I've noticed a lot in games, like there'll be like games where there's just defensive misplays and he kind of unravels a little bit, but like still probably has the best stuff of any reliever on the Cubs. I do worry about him a little. Just do you remember last year, like towards the end, there was a game that he elected to not be a part of because of like, didn't he have some like irregular heartbeat or something like that, or something like anxiety related, if I remember right? Yeah.
I remember that.
I'm pretty sure that's the case. There we go. Shaw. All right. Welcome back to the big leagues, kid. But anyways, that there's a lot of good options as far as like innings 6 through 8 for the Cubs right now. Like Drew Pomeranz has looked pretty good. Caleb Thielbar has kind of put it together. Brad Keller has been a multi-inning machine. You got guys who you feel good about bringing in, like to cover multiple innings in games where you're up a little bit more, like Chris Flexen did in Milwaukee. I just the closing option, that may be something that like they either have to get creative with, and maybe Ben Brown goes there when he gets ousted from the rotation, or
it could be by committee.
Right. It's been somewhat by committee, because I feel like since that blow up with Presley against the Giants, the only time they've had like a save situation in any game really has been a game that I think Drew Pomeranz saved against the Marlins. And really, that was more matchup based than anything in Craig's decision to go to him, because I think there were 2 lefty hitters due to hit in that inning for Miami, and he was able to get through it pretty smoothly. I don't know that I'd want to stick with him as a full-time closer, but
yeah.
Ooh, what's going on with PCA
don't forget
here?
Yeah, don't forget you've got Kenta Maeda in the minors as well too.
I don't imagine we're going to be seeing him though. I feel like that's, they after Cade Horton got called up, that's the guy
they
who's
need
still
more
in
depth.
that spot.
They need more depth.
Right.
Well, you brought up the name earlier, Moises Beceros, right?
Yeah, Mo Baller.
What do you think of I have my theories and I have my thoughts on him. I know we talked pre-show, but I know you wanted to talk about Mo and where he's been in the lineup too, and like what happens when Ian comes back. And
well, with him, like the results have not really been there all that much as far as like him getting hits. He did get on the board with his first hit on Friday against the White Sox, and that was cool to see. He got a nice moment showing his family in the crowd there. The thing with him though is like,
did you notice who else was in front when he got his first hit?
Who else was in front when he got his first hit?
Yeah, who was like in front of his parents?
Oh, our good friend Maddie Spagnola, right?
I saw that. Yeah.
Yes. And she was actually in like Sox gear, but like cheering and
known Sox fan, notorious Cubs hater.
Well, hold on now.
PCA basher.
Did you happen to see the viral tweet of hers from 2016 that
what was that?
Picked up some steam over the weekend of her like not exactly being a fan, but like kind of celebrating when the Cubs won the World Series? It went viral around like Sox Twitter, so and a bunch of people were kind of giving her shit for it.
Rightfully so. I mean, she's been bashing the Cubs, like
correct.
Like, come on.
I met her a few times. She's very nice and like, isn't
sure,
yeah, that was pretty awesome that like she got caught on camera like celebrating the Cubs a little bit there.
Yeah. No, she's probably like one of my she's a funny funny content creator, baseball fan. I love the true fanatic. I could respect it for sure, but you bash PCA as much as she has. I think she may have brought on PCA's reign against the White Sox.
Let me tell you something too. Just funny story here. The first time I ever met Maddie Spagnola was at last year, Cubs Astros at Wrigley, it wound up being the game in which PCA got his first career hit, and that first career hit was a 3-run homer that gave the Cubs the lead when they were losing at that point. So, like, she is basically, like, anytime she's in the presence of PCA, he goes off because, like, he did, especially in that Friday game against the Sox.
Let's get her to more Cubs games.
Exactly.
Nice double steal there.
Yeah.
Come on,
nice.
Seiya.
Come on. Come through here, Seiya.
He's the guy that I trust the least in these spots, too.
I mean, I get where you're coming from year to year, but like
he is the most unclutched Cub I think I've seen.
Look at his wrist numbers this year. I think he's like second in all of baseball in RBI right now between I think or behind in the NL, I should say, behind like Wilmer Flores.
That was not a strike.
He swung and missed out of the zone. That's true. Does get screwed on like some of those take calls from him a lot. I thought like when the ABS was in spring training, like nobody was going to benefit more than he would.
And, you know, the thing that's frustrating with him is that, you know, when he came here, he was advertised as this great contact hitter that had, you know, great 2-strike approach, you know, put the ball in play. And right. I feel like whenever I see him in these moments, he's got 2 strikes, he strikes out.
Yeah.
So that's where it's been frustrating for me, let's say. And that's where I feel like, you know, he's like the anti-Nico, you know, like
right,
Nico
right.
Horner.
I feel good about him with 2 strikes. Yeah.
He's, to me, like that's the guy I want up like in any moment.
He's
like
he's the real Nicky 2 strikes.
Yeah. Honestly, probably more than Kyle Tucker. I would rather like if I've got guys on base with 2 outs, you know, in scoring position.
Could see that. He has really good wrist numbers too this year. He was hitting like 429 as recently as the night that they had the walk-off against the Marlins, because he had the big hit like right before before Turner walked it off.
Yeah.
Back to Mo Baller.
Back to Mo, yeah. Sorry.
Yes. So I mean, his first game he goes 0 for 4. Talking about that same night with the walk-off.
He hit the ball hard though. I mean, his exit velocity was really strong. So I mean, expected batting average, you know, probably a little bit higher than what he actually got. I think he got robbed a little bit, but
right. Yeah. Well, he did have like, this is going to sound weird because I don't think these words have ever been spoken about the result of a baseball player doing this, but he had kind of a clutch fielder's choice that night. The fact that he stayed out of the double play and then someone could come in and run for him, set up that walk-off.
He's a baseball player, man. For a big dude, he can run.
Yeah, he can. He can. We just saw it on the play at the plate right there. And the infield single as well too.
He's got that Prince Fielder body.
Yes.
Don't hit like him, but he's got the body of Prince Fielder.
Right.
That vegan body.
Right. I'm sure Prince was really vegan all those years. But with Mo, like, so I guess the feeling with him is that when Happ comes back, that he may be the guy to get sent back down because you want him playing every day, and he may not get that opportunity here, but he would get in Iowa. But looking at the Cubs bench right now, like if he were to stick around and, you know, you cut bait with, you know, like your guy Turner that you want to get rid of, or, you know, maybe a Vidal Brujan becomes that casualty or whoever it winds up being. You know, that Birdie. You finally have an option on the bench that you feel is a reliable one, because as of right now, you just brought up his name, John Birdie. It's John Birdie, Vidal Brujan, whoever isn't catching that day. I'm not liking that bench. You know,
no, I'm not either.
I need at least one more hitter on that. You seem to have a different take on why Mo Baller is up right now. So, you know,
I do. I think that he is a bona fide trade bait for, you know, relief help when we get closer to the trade deadline, to be honest with you. I think, like, you know, he is a positionless position player. You know, like where's he going to play? He's not a catcher. He's, you know, this is Kyle Schwarber 2.0, where it's like, you know, he started out as a catcher, but is not going to be a long-term catcher. That's not who he is. I don't think he'll be a first baseman because I don't think you're moving Michael Busch off of first base at this point now, especially where he's had.
Did you happen to see a few nights ago there was video before a game of Busch taking ground balls at third base?
Oh man, don't mess with Bushy. I feel like he's had a really good year and a half here.
Right.
He's played really solid, above average first base, where I think he even got some Gold Glove votes last year for first base.
He's been much better than advertised defensively at first base. Like
he has.
I thought he wasn't going to be much when the Cubs first got him from the Dodgers.
No, but he's the first baseman I trust the most.
For sure.
I don't trust Justin Turner at first. Do you?
No, not at all.
I don't know if I trust Mo Baller doing the splits and digging.
No, and even if you did trust his defense, like you do want somewhat of a taller guy at first base too. Mo Baller is only about 5'9". Here's a little bit of trivia for you. Do you know who the last sub 6 foot first baseman to start a game for the Cubs was?
Sub 6 foot first baseman.
Yes,
the last one.
You don't have to go very far for this. In fact, I'll give you a little hint here. Okay. He was someone who was mentioned on one of your favorite TV shows, The Bear, at one point.
Ooh. Oh man, I'm stumped. I'm trying to think who played first. Like, was he a starter or was he just playing?
He was like part-time. It was like he got some regular playing time, but like never was the full-time starter.
God, what year was this?
This would have been like after the deadline in 2021, after they sold everyone off, and then a little bit into 22.
Oh, was it God, what was his name? Oh, I'm drawing a blank. He had like a really good year, right? Like really good power numbers, and then like that was it. He fell off and then ended up playing like career or some shit.
Yep, exactly.
God, well, I'm drawing a blank now. He had like a historic back half of the year like run offensively.
Oh wait, okay. Wait. I think I know who you're talking about. It's not that guy. You're probably thinking of Frank Schwindel, who
I was thinking of Schwindel. Yeah.
No, it was the guy who Schwindel was kind of like platooned with a little bit. I don't know if you're. I'll just say it. I don't know if you remember this name at all. Alfonso Rivas.
Oh my God, no! I would not have guessed that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that name is. Yeah.
Right. That's one of those names from like the, in between Rizzo and Bryant era and this era that you kind of try to forget about.
Yeah. But to my point, I'm thinking that Mo's up here for trade bait, right? I think they're trying to get him some looks at the plate, show other MLB teams what he could do at the plate, because I think he is a good hitter. Right. And again, he's 2 for 12 or something like that, or to start his career up here. But I think he's hit the ball really hard a lot. Just hit into some bad luck. But if another team is really interested in him like that, they're not going to look at the 2 for 12. They're going to look at the whole body of work of like what he's done in the minors, and the fact that like he has made some hard contact up here as well too. 100%.
The only thing that gives me pause about that.
That was not a strike. He got away with that.
Okay.
Theo Bar.
Yeah, he did. Nice catch, Seiya. Seiya's looked pretty good in left field. Gotta say.
Oof, don't jinx us, man, because that's
that's true. Although, playing in an indoor stadium this week, like he played in all indoor stadiums in Japan when he was a Gold Glover there, so not much to worry about with that. But
no wind.
Yeah, exactly.
That whole White Sox series was wild with the wind.
Yeah, it was, especially Friday, like blowing straight. Oh,
that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
When you got Pete Crow Armstrong looking rough out in center, you know that.
Yes, the one drop he had. Oh my God.
Sox
the fans were giving him so much shit for that too, and
then they had 2 or 3 plays that were very similar. So
exactly.
At least we haven't had a infielder hit the ball hit their face on a pop up.
Exactly.
And throw that out there.
Chase my draw. Exactly. But the one last thing I'll say about Mo Baller is that, like, I made the point about the bench improves so much if you keep him up. the other thing too is that if they wind up trading him, that means Craig really has to commit to playing Michael Busch every day at first base then. Because that after that, what is your option at first base? You know?
Yeah. Well, maybe we can talk to the Marlins and trade for Matt Mervis back.
Good call. Yeah, he's off to a hot start too. Although, is he even playing tonight? I don't think he's
not playing tonight.
Okay.
No, he's not playing tonight.
That's surprising. I mean, maybe we might see him later now that it's become a bullpen game and playing the matchup a little bit.
Yeah, Matthew. Good old Matthew.
Yeah.
I want to look up his stats because I'm like, I knew he was off to a pretty decent start.
He
got cold. He's batting 181. He's got 7 homers.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, okay, that's what it was. I do remember like first few weeks of April, he got off to an amazing start and had like 5 home runs by like the halfway point of April, basically.
Yeah, he's got 7 right now. He hasn't hit any in his last 15 games, but he's got 7 on the 7 on the year, but he's hitting a buck 81.
Yeah, I went to 2 of those Marlins games when they were at Wrigley last week, and I remember just thinking to myself, like, Mervis is definitely hitting one against us, and thankfully hasn't been the case. It was more, what's his name out in left field, Kyle Stowers. That
guy
had the big series.
He's had a really solid start to this year.
He is. He will more than likely be the Marlins lone all-star at the end of this year.
Yeah, you did want actually before we do on this day, let's actually talk about the all-stars because I know that was something you want to talk about. Was like who would be an all-star this year?
For sure. Well, like I said, like so the whole Kyle Stowers being an all-star for the Marlins angle may actually kind of factor in who makes it on the Cubs, I think. Because I think there's 2 pretty prominent outfield options for the Cubs.
Yep.
I think PCA is at, a lot can change between now and mid-July, but if the All-Star game is getting played next week, he's a lock for the All-Star team.
Gotta be.
Yeah.
Yep.
As much as we talked about Kyle Tucker's struggles, he's still been one of the best right fielders in all of the National League. He, I think, is 3rd in the NL in WAR at this point. They typically do carry about that many per position. I think, the fact that he is the big name and he wasn't able to go last year when he was hurt and he's now with a new team, I got a feeling that he'll be there the National League All-Stars too.
You could make a case for Nico Horner.
Could make a case for Nico Horner.
297, he's got 20 ribbies.
Yeah, but isn't he like under like 700 for his OPS?
Yeah.
I would have to see where he ranks like WAR and like all the advanced defensive metrics wise.
Gold Glove second baseman.
He is a Gold Glove second baseman. You make a good point there. As he may have almost boosted his OPS there. Damn. Hit to the warning track.
Almost had his first one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
still
almost
waiting
did.
on that from Nico.
Wow.
Yeah.
Couple more feet.
Let me ask you this. I think the Cubs are going to send 1 catcher to the All-Star game.
Really? Okay.
You think there's any possibility 2 of them go?
No.
You don't think so?
0 chance.
0 chance. All right.
When's the last time?
I'm glad you brought this up.
2 catchers. Okay.
I'm glad you brought this. And now I don't know if this is exactly the last time. I know it was very recent though. But I know in 2022, the Yankees sent both their catchers. It was Jose Trevino and I think Kyle Higashioka. Both those guys wound up making the All-Star game. And I'll read you what Jose Trevino's first half numbers were. They don't really seem to be all that All-Star worthy, but he had 251, 299 on base, a 415 slugging, a 714 OPS, 7 homers, 27 RBI. Maybe that did rank fairly high for catchers. Miguel Amaya is way outperforming that. So, I mean, and Amaya right now, I think, Carson Kelly is like way high up there in all the hitting numbers for National League catchers. Amaya is not far behind. He's like 6th or 7th in most categories. I think there's an outside shot they could send both of them there. Anytime Miguel Amaya has a big hit, I always tweet it too, that like they should send both.
I would be shocked. And this is where like I feel like I got to look this up. So let's look at some of the stats for, let's see, let's look by catcher. And then
if you're looking by catcher, you got to remember to like edit the plate appearance number down from like whatever it is, but because Amaya and
okay. So this is
are you looking on MLB or is this?
I'm on MLB and I filtered by at bats. So the guys that have the most at bats at catcher, and this is where you've got William Contreras has, got off to a rough start, but is starting to hit better now. I mean, he's got an on base at 360. Slug is still way down. OPS not super great, but you still got Rio Multu in front of him. You still got Joey Bart, who's having a really solid year so far. Will Smith, I think, is another guy that, he's got Dodgers on the front. That's automatically going to get you votes, from the name on the jersey.
For sure.
Sean Murphy, I think based on name, and 8 home runs, 18 ribbies. So, I don't know. And then you get all the way down to Carson Kelly and Miguel Amaya right here, right? Where, on base wise, slug, OPS, they're probably 2 of the best.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can filter by OPS here.
I don't know which site you're on.
Like qualifying.
Yeah, if you go to the rate stats, it's probably not going to show either of those guys because they don't have the amount of plate appearances to qualify for it. But if you look at the home runs and RBI and like the basic stats, I know Kelly is way up there in the catcher categories.
Oh yeah,
Carson Kelly's number 1. Yep,
home runs, and then you've got Miguel Amaya at 5 now after today, so really would rank 5th.
Right.
Ribbies, you've got Miguel Amaya at 25.
Yeah.
Carson
I'm telling
Kelly,
you, it's not out of the question.
Okay. All right. I don't think it's realistic, but it'll be interesting. I'll just say that. I think we'll see. I don't know if I would if I'm buying that yet. But
see, the problem is if you look at like what those 2 guys have done as a whole, they probably produce the most offensive production of any pair of catchers on any National League team. I feel like at least one of them's got to go to the All-Star game.
Yeah, I think they've honestly, I think this is where, I've shit on Craig a lot throughout the year, but I think Craig has played his matchups really well with his catchers.
Right.
I think he's balanced them really well, and you're getting great production out of both of them. You're keeping their legs fresh throughout the year too.
Yep.
This is where I'll give him credit. He's put him in positions to be good hitters. And I think even Carson Kelly said that was one of the reasons why he wanted to play here too, because he wanted to play for Craig and just being in a position to be, just be put in a good position to hit well. So
for sure. Definitely.
All right, let's do on this day, because I know we got to wrap up before the Bums.
Sorry. I know we're going way long here. All right. So one of these on this date, and it's actually going to be tomorrow's date for both of these. And if you know the date of May 20th, sticks out in Chicago baseball lore. Go back to 2006, a game on the South Side between the Cubs and White Sox, and a play at the plate with AJ Pierzynski colliding with Michael Barrett, and a fight ensuing, and Scott Podsednik body slamming AJ Pierzynski, and Brian Anderson charging in, and John Mabry getting involved, and whole lot of chaos at home plate at what was then called U.S. Cellular Field. No trivia for this. I just want to know, what was your experience watching that all unfold? Because I was at that game right by the Cubs dugout, and it was one of the most epic baseball moments I've ever gotten to witness live.
Yeah, that was all my friends, my family, I think I've talked on previous podcasts, they're all Sox fans, and I will say, even if you go back and you talk to my cousin Johnny, he will admit he was a meathead Sox fan. Love the Sox, hate the Cubs, didn't know why, just did it. That was just what they did, that's all they knew.
So listen, if you're on the South Side, it's in your DNA.
Yeah, and he admitted it. He now. I mean, obviously we're older, and I think like we don't care as we just don't care anymore. It's just not that serious, right? But back then, it's just the amount of times like there was just arguments over like oh, Barrett rocked him. Oh yeah, but AJ took that punch, and it's just the back and forth was pretty ridiculous. Jesus Christ, what is going on here?
Well,
he tagged him first, and then
I thought they had him on that pickoff at first. I guess he kind of just did a swim move to get back. So
nope, and they're not.
But that was a good pickoff throw
either. Yeah. Jesus.
Anyways,
yeah, he didn't get him. He was safe. Yeah. So I mean, I can't remember. I mean, I definitely like what year was that? That was 2006.
It was,
yeah. So
it was almost kind of like the reverse of what Cubs Sox is right now, because you had the Sox coming off of winning the World Series in 2005 and like having a really good year in 2006, even though they wound up missing the playoffs. And then like the Cubs in the middle of having one of the worst years in franchise history and like, had a lot of guys out. That was like, that was the year Derek Lee missed most of the year. That was like kind of the beginning of the end for Wood and Pryor as starting pitchers. Yeah. So like, it was like, it's we can somewhat relate to what Sox fans are going through now when looking back at that period of time. Yeah.
Right. You got any other on these days, or we're gonna?
Yes. So this will be trivia related, and this will be a little bit more recent. So it was on tomorrow's date again. A game at Wrigley Field, Cubs against the Yankees. It was the first game of a series in which a couple things happened here. One, it was Derek Jeter's last trip to Wrigley Field. It was Alfonso Soriano's return to Wrigley Field after being traded from the Cubs to the Yankees the year before. But there was a prized free agent acquisition that the Yankees had gotten the offseason before, and he was down to picking between the Cubs and the Yankees in free agency, and he chose the Yankees. And that night, he came in with a record of 6-0, and the Cubs gave him his first loss. Who is that pitcher that the Cubs gave their first loss to that they missed out on?
So the Cubs beat the Yankees in this game.
Cubs beat the Yankees in this game.
Okay. And it was a prize free agent pitcher.
Prize free agent pitcher on the mound for the Yankees.
Oh, Japanese pitcher.
Japanese pitcher, yep.
I can't remember his first name. Was it Tanaka?
Masahiro Tanaka.
Tanaka.
Yep.
That's right. Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah, that was definitely a guy that I know that he, came in really touted, like highly touted. That was a guy that the Cubs were trying to sign, and
right.
Yeah, he had a pretty good career too.
He did. Yeah. Maybe, if they had gotten him, could have gotten competitive maybe a year earlier than they really did, but all worked out the next few years for them.
All right. Yeah. All right. Let's jump into player A, player B, and then we'll wrap it up here. So,
all righty. Player A, player B.
One for me. You got player A and player B. So let's show player A first.
So we got player A. So far this season, and this is an active player playing this year. So far this season, hitting .257, an on-base percentage of .347, a slugging percentage of .407, OPS of 754, 6 homers, 28 RBI, 37 runs scored, 12 extra base hits, 5 for 5 in steals. He's drawn 23 walks. He's struck out 19 times, hit into 4 double plays, has 68 total bases, a 115 weighted runs created plus, and a Baseball Reference wins above replacement of 1.7. Then we move on to player B. Pretty similar numbers: 253 average, a 315 on base, a 472 slug, 787 OPS, 10 homers, 26 RBI, 33 runs scored, 18 extra base hits, 7 for 7 in steals. A little different in the walks and strikeout numbers: 17 walks, 51 strikeouts, grounded in 2 double plays, has 84 total bases, a 118 weighted runs created plus, and he has accumulated 1.6 Baseball Reference wins above replacement. So between these two, who you starting, who you benching?
I feel like this is a trap. I feel like one of these guys is like Juan Soto or something.
Possibly. Could be someone of that caliber, we'll say.
I'm going to guess maybe Alex Bregman is one of these guys.
No, Alex Bregman has been way, way hotter than that.
Yeah, I was going to say. I feel like there was somebody on this podcast that was pining to sign that guy too. I forgot who.
Yes,
who it was,
correct. Yes.
All right. So like the on base percentage of guy number 1, a player A. Slug is better from player B, so is OPS. Got more home runs, about the same RBIs. Weighted runs created. We got 3 more there. Draws less walks. Also is struck out a lot.
Yeah, struck out quite a bit.
Okay. I am gonna go player A.
Player A?
Because I think so, yeah. Because I mean he's drawn more walks. I like the on base more. I think the 12 extra base hits. Yeah, I'm gonna go player A.
Okay. You thought one of these might have been Juan Soto. Neither of these are Juan Soto, but player A is, at least until maybe recent years, has been like a player of the caliber of Juan Soto when he was in his prime. Player A is Mookie Betts, now the shortstop of the LA Dodgers. Player B is Dansby Swanson.
Okay.
Yep. So pretty similar numbers between those two. And Swanson was someone who I was going to bring up too, is potentially an all-star for the Cubs.
Could be, yeah.
If you look where he ranks among National League shortstops, he's about 5th in WAR, but he is the top one among NL Central shortstops at this point. And I wonder if they maybe go with best in division at that point.
I also would take Mookie 10 out of 10 times over Dansby Swanson.
I mean, you're not wrong, but I mean,
there's no world I would choose Dansby over Mookie Betts.
I have you gotten to see a lot of Mookie playing shortstop though? Because with similar numbers,
I still think he'll figure it out. If he's been playing rough defensively, I think he's just a natural athlete. I mean, he pivoted from right field to second base, now moving over to short. I mean, this guy's had to play 3 different positions in the last 3 years. Has been one of the best hitters in the National League, one of the best hitters in the American League, one of the best hitters in baseball in general. I'm taking Mookie 10 out of 10 times. There's no world that, and he bowled
a 300 game.
100%. Yeah. I would take Mookie Betts over most MLB players, with the exception of like the Shoheis, Aaron Judges. But to me, he's up there. He's top 5, top 6, maybe.
Okay. I don't necessarily disagree with that. I do like Dansby defensively more at short, and I think that Mookie will pick up his numbers more as the year goes on. But at this current time, I think you get a little bit more value from Dansby. That could change as the year goes on.
Let's wrap up. Bum start in 2 minutes. So
yes. Oh, shoot. We got to get out of here.
Hello. You play to win the game.
Addison is next. Doors open on the left at Addison.
I say one thing. Go. Let's go. That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W.
It's a L7 winning.
All right. So I think I've got a couple W's, but I don't know if you want to go ahead and.
Sure. I got one of each, and technically they're the same conglomerate, we'll say. For those who maybe have seen, for those who follow me on Twitter, for those who have seen kind of things happening with me, Cubs related wise, I was at the Sunday night game against the Phillies a couple weeks ago, and little thing happened where I was wearing a hoodie that wound up getting ripped when the door of, I don't even know if it's an electrical box or a water outlet or something like that, but wound up ripping the hoodie. Sent a tweet out to both the Cubs and Obvious Shirts, and they were more than gracious enough to replace. First off, Obvious Shirts replacing the custom Sammy Sosa hoodie that I got from them at the Cubs convention. They sent me a new one of those. Huge thanks to Joe and everyone at Obvious Shirts for that. Then the Cubs were nice enough, even after I told them that I had that coming on the way. I just wanted acknowledgement from them, and all I wanted was for them to have that door shut for future games. They were nice enough, a representative, to buy me this hoodie. So shout out to the Cubs fan services team and also Obvious Shirts. You guys get a huge W for providing me with some fantastic, more than you needed to customer service. So thank you very much to both those entities.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yep.
I wanted to give my W to been taking a lot of slack over the last week with some of these reports coming out with, was that PCA? Come on. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Caleb Williams has been taking some slack over the last week or so, but he did post on his Instagram stories yesterday. He reshared a story from the Cubs Instagram handle with P. Crow Armstrong, with P. Crow's getting his triple, and said baller at P. Crow Armstrong. Flair on both sides of town there, right? I love the way that Caleb plays quarterback, the way that P. Crow plays baseball. Game recognizes game, so I'm gonna give my W to Caleb for recognizing Pete Crow's game across town. I thought that was pretty cool.
Love that. Yeah, it's pretty great, and I'm surprised we didn't see any of Caleb at the series this week. Feel like that's when you get like the prominent like Bears guy either throwing out the first pitch or singing "Taking Out the Ball Game."
I think they had OTAs over the weekend, so
that's true. Also, you know what? I'll throw in another W kind of related to what I was just saying. Chris Chelios Sunday.
Yeah, that was cool.
Ball game. Yes, with the Rizzo jersey, starting the Rizzo chant, and like
that was cool.
Having a nice little tribute to Anthony Rizzo before he started singing. So, huge W to Chris Chelios there.
Awesome. I've got 3 W's or 3 L's, I should say. I'm gonna, in one, you actually kind of like helped me preface. I was gonna give my L to the Boston Red Sox. For not being able to figure out first base and really trying to figure out what's going on. And like Rizzo's out there, you need a first baseman. And I'm perplexed, like why he hasn't gotten another shot at this point, considering, he had a pretty good year, maybe not last year after he came back from injury, but the year before he had some good power numbers, but and that's a short right field out in Boston. So I'm kind of surprised they didn't try to, at least try to get him on board. But so that's L number 1. L number 2 goes to the Chicago Sports Bums.
Yes.
They have still yet to pay us back from our Cubs Sox wager from last year when the Cubs took both those series, I believe, right? They took both at home and away.
Yeah, swept them both.
Yep. And the bet was that, whoever won the series, the other, podcast would wear the opposition's, paraphernalia, the hat, the jerseys, whatever, right? Just anything that signified the other team's, their logos or whatever. They still have yet to pay us. Here we are in 2025, and the Cubs already have another sweep against them.
Yes.
So this is now 7 wins in a row that they have not paid us back. So yeah, I'm gonna keep giving them L's until they join us and they pay off their bet.
Hey, hammer it home, make them hear it. I don't know if like us being on the air while their schedule to be on there is like cutting into their time and all, but like, you know what, they kind of owe us for that, for not paying up on their bet. Now I think about it. To the point about the Red Sox not figuring out first base, what the hell is going on with like the whole Rafael Devers situation with them?
Yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yep.
I was gonna do my last L and I'll let you finish off. So my last L goes to Angel Reese of the Chicago Sky. I don't know if you
Yes.
saw the NBA or WNBA's season opener with Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever facing off against the Chicago Sky and Angel Reese, and like this whole like talk of like a rivalry between these two. You know, and I know I should be rooting for the home team, and I do. I'll root for the Sky. But I don't even think Angel Reese is the best player on the Sky. Let alone
Boston, right? What's her name?
You've got Cardona.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Cardona, I believe it is. And then the rookie they just drafted, that was Angel Reese teammate at LSU.
Okay.
Is it Van Lith, I think? I can't remember her name, but yeah, so I think, dude, I can't stand Angel Reese. I really can't. I just, she is not a good basketball player. Her footwork is awful. She misses more layups than a toddler on a little Tykes, like, hoop. It just, to me, it's like, if you're that braggadocious and you're that, like, oh, they're watching me too. It's not just one person. Hit a fucking layup. She averaged, like, her field goal percentage last year was like 30 something percent. Not 3-point, her overall field goal percentage as a forward. You should be in the 50 percentile, at minimum.
Well, I don't know what the averages are in the WNBA, but I know, like, NBA, it's
trash.
Right,
she's trash. And like, I wanted to be happy when they drafted her and I think it's Cardona, I believe her last name is, when they drafted, and then also Cardona was drafted before her. So, I mean, that tells you right there that's, to me, they valued her as the better player anyway. But like, if you're talking that much trash to like Caitlin Clark, who is clearly the best player in the WNBA right now.
Yeah.
Like, clearly the best player. And you're saying that, oh, they're watching for me too, or you're trying to create this fake rivalry. Like, why are you flopping? Like, this is where it's like, and this is where I actually, like, I have said the one thing that I think the WNBA does really, really well over the NBA is they play physical, they allow physical play, and there's no flopping. Like, these women aren't throwing themselves all over the floor the way that some of these guys do, like LeBron and some of these other players that are just continuously just throwing themselves like they've just got hit by a freight train,
right.
And then I watched her, it's like, yeah, Caitlin looked like she gave her a shove, but I mean, she threw her body like she got flung by like a 300-pounder. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, and then just got up like she was going to do something tough. Like,
it was,
you suck.
Embarrassing.
Sit down. Caitlin Clark owns you until you can work on your game and finish up some layups and your footwork, and you don't look like a baby giraffe out there running around. Then you can talk.
Hell yeah, so go in on her.
All right, that's my last W's, or the last L, I should say.
All good.
Go ahead.
All right, last L for me. It is also having to do with the Cubs and some public relations things, because going back to May 8th, on the day that it was announced that we have a new Pope, they ran with a story saying that Pope Leo XIV is a Cubs fan, and they still have the tweet up too of him saying on the marquee, "Hey, Chicago, he's a Cubs fan." Got confirmed a little later in the day from his brother that he is indeed a White Sox fan, and then video surfaced of him at one of the White Sox World Series games, and White Sox fans had a field day with that. So, that was embarrassing, and they still have it. I mean, hey, maybe they're just owning it, but I was starting to get a little worried after, the Cubs lost a few games after that. That was when they were in New York, and I was thinking, like, is there some higher power over the Cubs right now that's preventing them from winning? Let's maybe consider, taking that down.
Well, that's why I said not even the Pope could save the White Sox from PCA over the weekend.
This is true. It's not even the Pope could. Oh, man.
I love that.
Yep.
All right, let's wrap up here. We've got the upcoming schedule. Let me pull this up here.
Yep.
All right, so let me pull up the Cubs schedule here. I know we've got 3 against the Marlins, are up 7-6 right now.
Right.
I know we've got. Let's see. We got. All right. So you've got 3 against the Marlins here. They're up 7-6 now. And I feel like they got to wrap this up because they win on days that we do shows.
This is true.
And then they've got 3 against Cincinnati before we hopefully can reconvene on Monday when they play Colorado.
Yep.
So
although I don't know, would you be available for Monday because that's Memorial Day technically?
Oh yeah, that's right. I could do
family.
I could probably do Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday works for me.
Yeah,
got production meeting on air.
All right, so you've got 3 against Miami, 3 against Cincinnati, and 1 against Colorado. Then, so that's 7 games.
Yep. I mean, look, we're going tonight. It's a tight game right now, 7-6, but Cubs have been pretty good of late. No runs allowed by the bullpen in the White Sox series. I think only 2 were allowed in the Marlins series when they were at Wrigley. I feel pretty good about them holding on tonight. Okay. Granted, the bullpen has been kind of worked quite a bit so far with Ben Brown not being able to go 5 innings, but they've done their job tonight. Hopefully they can hold on to it. I think Marlins, I felt a little nervous going into the series that this would be a trap series for the Cubs, that they had all this high energy just playing against the White Sox. And then they would kind of come out looking flat. And for the first few innings, they did look flat tonight. If they were going to lose one, it was maybe going to be tonight, but they come back admirably. I think they wind up cruising the rest of the way, and they win tonight, and they sweep the Marlins.
Wow. Okay.
As Bill Belichick would say, then we're on to Cincinnati. Although, I shouldn't say what the joke I was going to make about Belichick there. Never mind.
Your girlfriend's going to come cease and desist your joke.
Right, exactly. Last few years, the Cubs have had trouble with Cincinnati. And I want to say that I think during that series is when they got Hunter Green back off the injured list. That gives me a little bit of nervousness, and I kind of lean towards the Cubs losing 2 out of 3 in Cincinnati.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. We'll see. The offense hasn't really picked up for the Reds all that much so far this year. Hopefully the Cubs pitching can stay pretty well against them, and they get some good starts when they're in there in the Great American Small Park. Hopefully you got Ian Happ returning and staying hot. Mm-hmm. There's something about going there. It's almost being like Coors Field, but in the NL Central, that you can make the right pitches, and some of the same pitches you make at Wrigley Field that'll go for outs are going to go for home runs there. I think they lose 2 out of 3 in Cincinnati. And then Memorial Day game against the Rockies. The Rockies have been a doormat to everyone they've played this year. I think they win that game fairly easily. So I got them, what is that? 5-2 until we are scheduled to record next.
Okay. I've got them winning 2 out of 3 against the Marlins because I think the Marlins have played the Cubs pretty well throughout this year so far. So they played them pretty tight for whatever reason. They've had a tough time against them this year. So I think they lose 1. I think they take 2 out of 3 against Cincinnati. I'm going to throw that out here. If Ian Happ is back during that series, I'm going to take a bet every single game, a parlay of Ian Happ homering with the Cubs win.
There we go.
I'm going to let it ride throughout the weekend because I'm sure to hit at least one of them.
Absolutely.
And then I'm going to, the Rockies, they should sweep that series. But I think, Memorial Day, they should definitely take that. But I do think they'll take the first 2 in Cincinnati, and I think that Sunday game they'll resume their Sunday woes.
Gotcha.
And getaway day. So
okay, that's I could see that. I just wonder which game it will be that Hunter Green returns for the Reds. If they find a way to avoid him, it could very easily. I could very easily see them taking 2 out of 3 as well too. But,
but you know what? I think even that, I'm those pitchers, Hunter Green will be tough, but I think even coming back, he'll probably be on a pitch count, and they'll probably work deep counts where they get into that bullpen early. And I felt the same way when they faced Skeens, and they found a way to get to Skeens. So,
yeah, good point.
The first start coming back, I'm not necessarily as concerned. I think if he were knee deep into a season and he was riding a heater, that I would have felt a little bit differently, but yeah.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, we both got 5-2. We got different ways and different paths to get there, but we do think that our boys will finish 5-2 over the next 7 games. They've got one out here in the 9th. They're up 7-6 with looks like Michael Bush up to bat. Say at first. Let's see if they can hold out, and we'll see who the closer is tonight. Because we already saw Presley in the 7th.
Gonna be a safe situation unless they can like really rally in the 9th.
Yeah, they could blow it open here, but we'll see.
Right.
All right. Well, it's been fun catching up. I know we went really long today, but almost 2 hours here. But we'll
sorry to delay you from dinner.
Yeah, no, I already ate.
That's
but
good.
yeah, we'll see you next week, and let's see how our boys finish up.
Thank you. Go Cubs. Thanks
All
for
right.
tuning in, everybody.
Go Cubbies.